My dear friends, have you ever noticed when we are silent, the world becomes louder? When we stop explaining ourselves, life starts explaining for us. And when we stop chasing what we want, sometimes it finds its way back to us in ways we never imagined. You see, silence is not the absence of words, it is the presence of wisdom. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. In a world that runs on noise, where everyone wants to prove a point, argue their truth, and defend their ego, silence has become one of the rarest forms of strength. It's not about keeping quiet because you have nothing to say. It's about keeping quiet because you've realized that not everything deserves your energy and not every argument deserves your voice. Silence is the mark of someone who has learned that peace is far more valuable than winning an argument. Think about it. When someone says something hurtful to you, your first instinct is to respond, to prove them wrong, to defend yourself, to show that you are right. But what if, in that moment, you simply smiled and stayed silent? What if, instead of reacting, you chose to observe? That small pause, that little silence, would speak volumes. Because silence doesn't mean you are powerless. It means you are powerful enough to choose not to waste your power. In our daily lives, we meet people who misunderstand us, talk behind our backs, or criticize us for choices they don't understand. You could spend hours explaining yourself, but would it change their mindset? Most likely not. Silence in such moments is not surrender, it's strategy. It's like a wise player in chess who doesn't move every time the opponent provokes. He waits for the right move, the one that changes everything. That's wisdom. Let's take an example from nature. When a storm comes, the mountain doesn't move, the ocean doesn't explain itself, and the trees don't complain. They simply endure in silence. They trust that the storm will pass, and when it does, their silence becomes their strength. The trees stand taller, the air becomes clearer, and the earth shines again. Your silence, too, can be that kind of quiet power, one that allows you to stay grounded when everything around you is in chaos. Imagine being in your workplace and a colleague falsely blames you for a mistake. Your first instinct might be to defend yourself immediately, to shout and explain, but instead you take a deep breath and remain silent. You let your work, your consistency, your integrity speak for you. Days later, the truth comes out. Your silence is proven right. People realize who you truly are without you saying a word. That's when silence turns into wisdom, because wisdom doesn't rush, it waits. We live in times where people mistake silence for weakness because they think power comes from being loud, dominant, and expressive. But true power is calm. The ocean may be still on the surface, yet beneath lies infinite depth. That's the kind of silence we should strive for. The silence that comes from confidence, not confusion. When you are truly wise, you understand that energy is precious. You stop wasting it on negativity. If someone insults you, your silence says, "I won't let your bitterness steal my peace." If someone doubts you, your silence says, "Time will prove me right." If someone leaves you, your silence says, "I will let destiny decide who belongs in my life." That's not weakness. That's inner maturity. Remember the story of a candle and the wind? The wind tries to blow out the candle with all its force, but the candle flickers silently and keeps burning. The candle doesn't shout, stop blowing, it just shines. That's the secret of the wise. They shine quietly even when life blows hard. Silence is wisdom because it teaches us patience. It shows us that not everything needs an immediate response. The universe works in its own time, and sometimes the best thing we can do is step back and allow it to unfold. You don't have to respond to every insult, react to every rumor, or explain every decision. The wise understand that truth defends itself over time. It doesn't need an army of words. When you start practicing silence, you'll notice a beautiful thing: peace becomes louder inside you. You start hearing your own thoughts clearly. You begin to see situations as they are, not as your emotions paint them. Silence gives you perspective. It's like a mirror that shows you your real reflection, unshaken, calm, powerful. Even in relationships, silence holds wisdom. Sometimes when you argue with someone you love, silence can heal faster than words. Because words spoken in anger can never be taken back, but silence in patience can save a bond. When you choose silence over shouting, you choose love over ego. The great saints, monks, and wise leaders have always emphasized the value of silence. Not because they didn't know how to speak, but because they knew when to speak. Gaur Gopal Das often says, wise people speak because they have something to say. Foolish people speak because they have to say something. That's the essence of wisdom, knowing the difference between the two. In silence, you begin to hear the voice of your intuition, the soft guidance of your soul. You begin to trust yourself more, depend less on the noise outside, and find peace in your own company. You realize that silence is not empty, it's full of answers. So, the next time someone challenges you, hurts you, or misunderstands you, remember, your silence is your strength. You don't have to prove your worth to anyone. The truth always reveals itself in time. Let your silence be your teacher, your protector, and your power. Because those who understand the value of silence are the ones who live in wisdom, not noise. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the voice of calm in a chaotic world, the strength of patience in a hurried life, and the language of those who have mastered themselves. And when you master silence, you master peace. And when you master peace, you master life itself. Reactions create chaos, silence creates clarity. These words hold a deep truth that most of us only learn after facing pain, misunderstandings, and regrets. Every time we react instantly, we lose control. But every time we pause, take a breath, and choose silence, we gain power, not power over others, but power over ourselves. In that moment of stillness, clarity begins to rise like the sun after a long, dark night. Think about your daily life. How many times have you said something in anger that you later wished you could take back? How many relationships have suffered because of words spoken without thought? It happens to all of us. We get emotional, we react fast, and later we regret it. That's the price of chaos. It begins with a reaction and ends with confusion. Silence, however, begins with patience and ends with understanding. Let's imagine a simple scene. You're driving and someone suddenly cuts you off. Instinctively, you want to shout, honk, or curse. Your heart races, your blood boils, and you feel wronged. But if at that moment you take a deep breath and stay silent, you realize something. Your silence doesn't change the driver, but it changes you. You stay calm, Your peace remains intact, and you arrive safely instead of letting anger drive your emotions. That's the clarity silence brings. It separates what matters from what doesn't. Reactions come from emotion, silence comes from awareness. When we react, we let others control our mood. When we stay silent, we take that control back. It's like holding the steering wheel of your own mind. You can choose to turn toward peace or toward chaos, and that choice defines the quality of your life. Have you ever noticed how wise people often pause before speaking? That little pause is not hesitation, it's wisdom in action. It's their way of saying, "Let me see this clearly before I respond." Because when you see clearly, you speak wisely. But when you react blindly, you speak foolishly. Clarity is born in stillness. In the workplace, this truth plays out every day. Suppose your boss criticizes your effort in front of everyone. Your ego screams, "Defend yourself." But if you react, you may speak words you regret or create tension that lasts. If instead you stay silent, observe, and later have a calm conversation, you not only preserve your dignity, but earn respect. That's the quiet strength of silence. It doesn't shout, it simply shows maturity. In relationships too, reactions can destroy what silence could have healed. When someone you love says something harsh, reacting immediately only adds fuel to the fire. But silence gives you the space to understand their pain behind the words. Maybe they were tired, hurt, or stressed. Your silence becomes a mirror in which both hearts can see the truth more clearly. The moment you stop reacting, you start understanding. Even in parenting, this principle works wonders. When a child misbehaves, many parents react out of frustration. But wise parents stay calm, observe, and speak when emotions have cooled down. Because they know a reaction teaches fear, but silence followed by calm words teaches understanding. Children learn more from your patience than from your punishment. Reactions often come from ego, the need to prove we are right, but clarity comes from humility, the ability to see that not every battle is worth fighting. There's freedom in realizing that you don't need to respond to everything. Sometimes, peace is more valuable than pride. Picture this, you're scrolling on social media and someone posts a rude comment about you. Your mind wants to reply instantly. You want to defend your image. But if you choose silence, you rise above the noise. You remind yourself, their words don't define me, my character does. That's clarity, knowing what truly matters. Because when you stop reacting, you start attracting peace, respect, and strength. In life, many situations are like muddy water. When you stir it with your reactions, it becomes unclear. But if you let it settle in silence, everything becomes visible. This is exactly how silence works. It lets the truth reveal itself. You don't have to dig for answers. They surface naturally when your mind is calm. I remember a story of a wise monk who was insulted by a man in the village. The monk didn't respond, he smiled and walked away. Later, his disciples asked, "Master, why didn't you say anything?" The monk said, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does it belong?" The disciples replied, "To the giver." The monk said, "Exactly. I didn't accept his anger. It stayed with him." That's what silence does. It returns chaos to where it came from. Reactions make situations worse. Silence makes them better. In the heat of emotion, reactions feel satisfying, but later they feel heavy. Silence, on the other hand, feels difficult in the moment, but peaceful afterward. One brings regret, the other brings relief. That's why clarity always belongs to the silent heart. When you practice silence, you start seeing beyond words. You start reading intentions, emotions, and energies. You realize that people's actions often reflect their pain, not your fault. This awareness makes you compassionate instead of reactive. You begin to choose peace over provocation, love over anger, patience over pride. Every time you react, you lose a piece of your peace. Every time you stay silent, you earn a piece of your power. The world will keep testing you. People will push your buttons. Situations will provoke you. Emotions will rise. But remember, your silence is not emptiness. It's your armor. It protects your energy, your dignity, your wisdom. Reactions create chaos. Silence creates clarity. Choose silence not because you are afraid to speak, but because you are strong enough to wait. Wait for the truth to reveal itself. Wait for the storm to pass. Wait for peace to return. Because in the end, those who master silence don't explain yourself to people who don't want to understand. This simple truth can save you from endless stress, disappointment, and wasted energy. Because no matter how pure your heart is, or how good your intentions are, there will always be people who see what they want to see, hear what they want to hear, and believe what they choose to believe. When someone has already decided not to understand you, no amount of explanation can open their mind, and sometimes silence becomes the most powerful explanation of all. In life, we all meet people who misunderstand us. Maybe they judge your choices, your dreams, or your silence. They create their own stories about you, and you try your best to defend yourself. But no matter how hard you try, it seems like your words only make things worse. That's because when someone listens with the intention to reply, not to understand, your words become meaningless to them. You can't make someone see your light if their heart is determined to stay in darkness. Think about it. Have you ever tried explaining your pain to someone who didn't care? You pour your heart out, hoping they'll see your side, but they only twist your words and make you feel guilty. That's when you must understand that not everyone deserves your explanation. You owe honesty to yourself, not to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. Imagine you're walking on your own path. Maybe you choose a career that others don't agree with, or you end a relationship that no longer brings peace. People will question you, they'll talk, they'll criticize, but should you spend your whole life explaining your decisions to them? No, because those who truly care for you will understand without an explanation, and those who don't care will never understand, even if you explain 1,000 times. There's a beautiful saying, a wise man once said nothing. That's because wisdom teaches you that silence often speaks louder than words. When people misunderstand your silence, let them. When they misinterpret your kindness, let them. Because your truth doesn't need validation, it only needs time. Let's take a real life example. Imagine a woman who decides to leave a toxic relationship. Her friends, her family, maybe even society start questioning her. Why would you leave? Maybe you didn't try enough. Maybe you're the problem. She tries to explain that she stayed quiet for years, that she suffered silently. But they don't understand. And then, one day, she realizes she doesn't need their understanding to heal. She needs her own peace. That's the moment she chooses silence, and in that silence, she finds freedom. When you stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand, you stop begging for approval. You start trusting your own judgment. You start believing that your peace matters more than their opinion. You start to realize that it's okay if people misunderstand you, because only you know the truth of your journey. We live in a world that loves to judge quickly but understands slowly. Everyone wants to have an opinion, but very few want to listen. You don't owe your story to people who are only curious to gossip, not to grow. Protect your energy by knowing when to stay silent. When you stop explaining, you reclaim your power. Because explaining yourself too much means you are trying to convince someone to see your worth, and your worth doesn't need convincing. Even in relationships, this truth applies. When you truly love someone, you try to explain your side when there's a misunderstanding. But when you realize that the other person isn't listening to understand, they're only listening to argue, you begin to see the futility of your words. Real love doesn't demand constant justification. It understands through silence, through effort, through presence. In your professional life too, this truth shines. There will always be colleagues or bosses who misunderstand your intentions. They might see your silence as arrogance, your kindness as weakness, or your confidence as pride. You could try to explain, but your results, your consistency, or your dedication, they speak far louder. Let your work be your explanation, because when truth stands tall, it doesn't need a speech to defend itself. There's a powerful peace that comes when you stop explaining yourself. You begin to walk lighter. You realize that life becomes easier when you stop fighting for people's understanding and start living for your own clarity. You no longer waste energy trying to fix perceptions that were never based on truth. You simply live in authenticity, and that authenticity becomes your answer. Some people misunderstand silence as guilt. Let them. Some misunderstand distance as arrogance. Let them. Some misunderstand self-respect as ego. Let them. Because their misunderstanding does not define your truth. The ones who truly see your heart will never need an explanation, and the ones who don't see it will never believe one. A river never stops flowing to explain its direction. It knows where it's headed. The sun doesn't explain why it rises every morning. It just shines. The tree doesn't explain why it sheds its leaves. It trusts the process of renewal. In the same way, you don't have to explain why you've changed, why you've healed, why you've outgrown people, or why you've chosen peace over drama. Those who are meant to understand will understand in time. Silence, in such moments, becomes your language of strength. It says, I don't need to prove myself anymore. It says, I'm not here to win arguments. I'm here to protect my peace. And it says, my energy is sacred. I choose to spend it on growth, not justification. When you stop explaining yourself, you begin to live authentically. You start making choices from your heart, not from fear of judgment. You begin to walk with confidence, not to impress others, but to honor yourself. That's when you realize that your peace of mind is worth more than their approval. Don't explain yourself to people who don't want to understand, because their confusion is not your responsibility. Your duty is to live your truth, to stay aligned with your values, and to let life speak for you. Time has a beautiful way of revealing what words never can. So, stay silent, stay strong, and trust that the people meant for you will understand you without needing an explanation. Because when you no longer need to be understood, you finally begin to understand yourself. Your silence protects your energy and peace. These words carry a power that most people realize only after being drained by endless arguments, misunderstandings, and emotional battles. In today's world, everyone wants to have the last word, to prove they're right, to make others see things their way. But in trying to be heard, we often lose the most precious thing we have, our inner peace. Silence is not just about staying quiet. It's about choosing what deserves your energy and what doesn't. It's about realizing that your peace is far too valuable to waste on things that don't truly matter. Every time you choose silence, instead of reacting, you protect yourself. You protect your mental balance, your emotions, and your focus. When you stay silent, you don't lose energy trying to change people's minds or defending yourself against negativity. Instead, you redirect that energy toward growth, understanding, and self-improvement. Silence becomes your shield, invisible, gentle, but powerful enough to guard your peace from the noise of the world. Think about your daily life. How often do you get dragged into unnecessary conversations that leave you tired and frustrated? Maybe a coworker gossips, a friend complains constantly, or a family member criticizes your choices. You try to explain, to argue, to justify, but instead of finding peace, you end up emotionally exhausted. That's because not every situation deserves a response. Sometimes the most powerful statement is made when you choose not to make one. Your silence becomes a wall between your peace and their chaos. For example, imagine someone spreading rumors about you. Your first instinct might be to confront them, to defend your name. But what if you chose silence instead? In time, the truth always finds its way out. People who truly know you will never believe lies, and those who do believe them were never for you in the first place. Your silence becomes your strength. It shows that you trust yourself enough not to be shaken by the noise of others. That calmness confuses people who expected you to break, and in that confusion, your silence speaks louder than any defense ever could. Silence also protects your energy from emotional traps. There are people who thrive on conflict. They feed off your reactions. The moment you argue, they win because they've taken your peace away. But when you refuse to engage, when you stay calm and silent, they lose their power. You cannot fight fire with fire, you extinguish it with stillness. Your silence disarms the negativity and teaches people that your peace is not available for their drama. There's a story about a wise monk who lived in a village. One day, a man approached him, shouting insults, trying to provoke him. The monk sat quietly, smiling. After some time, the man got tired and left. The monk's students asked, "Master, why didn't you respond?" The monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you don't take it, who does it belong to?" The students said, "To the giver." The monk smiled and said, "Exactly. I did not accept his anger. It still belongs to him." That's what silence does. It refuses to accept what doesn't belong to you. It protects your inner world from the pollution of others. In modern life, we often underestimate how draining constant reaction can be. Every argument, every debate, every unnecessary explanation consumes your mental and emotional energy. By staying silent, you save that energy for what truly matters: your goals, your dreams, your loved ones, your peace. You begin to realize that not every opinion needs to be countered, not every insult needs to be answered, and not every misunderstanding needs to be cleared. The more you value your peace, the less you feel the need to prove anything. There's a reason why peaceful people are so powerful. They are not loud, they are not reactive, but their presence radiates calmness. That calmness comes from self-control, and self-control comes from silence. When you practice silence, you start noticing that your mind becomes lighter. You begin to hear your own thoughts clearly, without the noise of others clouding your perspective. Silence connects you to yourself. It's a space where your energy refuels and your soul breathes freely. In relationships, silence can save hearts. When emotions run high and words are sharp, silence can prevent irreversible damage. Sometimes, not responding in anger is the highest form of love, because silence at that moment doesn't mean indifference. It means you're protecting the peace that holds the relationship together. It means you care more about the bond than about winning an argument. Even in your professional life, silence can be your biggest asset. When people gossip, when situations get tense, or when you're being unfairly criticized, silence shows maturity. It shows that you're focused on your work, not on drama. Over time, people learn to respect those who don't get dragged into negativity. Your calm becomes your reputation, and your silence becomes your dignity. The more you practice silence, the more peaceful your life becomes. You'll start noticing that you no longer get triggered easily. You'll stop feeling the need to react to every small thing. You'll find a quiet confidence that says, I don't need to fight to prove who I am. That's the beauty of silence. It gives you strength that words can't. Your silence is not weakness. It's a boundary. It's a statement that says, my energy is precious, and I choose to protect it. It's the difference between being wise and being reactive, between living peacefully and living in chaos. Silence allows you to choose your battles, to walk away with grace, and to keep your inner world calm, even when the outer world is storming. Life will keep testing your peace. People will challenge your patience. Situations will provoke your emotions, and you'll be tempted to react. But when you choose silence, you rise above it all. You understand that true strength is staying calm when others are losing control. You understand that peace is not found by controlling others. It's found by controlling yourself. Your silence protects your energy and peace, because it teaches you one of the greatest lessons of life. Not every action deserves a reaction. Not every word deserves a response. And not every storm deserves your presence. The more you protect your energy, the more peaceful, joyful, and powerful your life becomes. And in that peace, you discover a truth far deeper than words, that silence, when chosen wisely, is the highest form of strength. Life rewards those who stay calm in storms. These words may sound simple, but they carry the deepest wisdom you can live by. Because life, as beautiful as it is, will always bring storms, moments of confusion, loss, betrayal, anger, and disappointment. But what separates those who break from those who grow stronger is not the size of the storm, but the calmness within them. Calmness doesn't mean that you don't feel pain or fear. It means you trust that no matter how strong the wind blows, you will not be carried away. When storms hit, most people panic. They react, they shout, they blame, they rush into decisions. And in doing so, they lose their balance. But those who have learned the art of staying calm know that panic doesn't solve anything, it only makes things worse. Calmness gives clarity, and clarity gives direction. The moment you choose to remain calm, you begin to see solutions that panic had hidden from you. Imagine standing on a beach during a storm. The waves crash, the wind howls, and the sky turns dark. If you start running in fear, you'll stumble and fall. But if you stay still, breathe, and wait, you'll notice that every storm eventually passes and the sea returns to peace. Life works the same way. Every challenge has a beginning and an end. Your calmness doesn't stop the storm, it helps you survive it. In daily life, storms can appear in many forms. Maybe it's an argument at home, a failure at work, or a sudden loss that shakes your heart. When emotions rise, it's easy to lose control. But have you ever noticed how, when you calm yourself first, things somehow start to fall into place? You begin to understand what really matters and what doesn't. You stop reacting out of emotion and start responding out of wisdom. That's the power of staying calm. It allows you to act, not just react. Think about a surgeon performing a life-saving operation. The patient's life depends on his steadiness. If the surgeon panics, even for a second, everything could go wrong. But by staying calm, he brings focus, precision, and hope. Life is no different. When chaos surrounds you, staying calm is your greatest tool for survival. It helps you think clearly, make better choices, and carry yourself with grace, even when the world is shaking around you. Many times, calmness also protects relationships. In anger, we often say things we don't mean, words that cut deeper than we realize. But when we learn to pause, to breathe before we speak, we save bonds that might have been broken. Staying calm doesn't mean you let others walk over you. It means you choose your battles wisely. It means you know when to speak and when silence will heal more than words ever could. There's a story about a wise fisherman who went out to sea with a group of younger men. Suddenly, a violent storm hit. The younger men screamed, trying to steer the boat in every direction. But the old fisherman sat quietly, holding the rudder with steady hands. When the storm passed, the younger men asked him how he managed to stay so calm. The fisherman smiled and said, "I've learned that no storm lasts forever, but panic makes it last longer." His calmness saved them. That's what life teaches us. Storms are temporary, but calmness is eternal. In your journey, you'll face people who test your patience, situations that break your confidence, and moments that make you question everything. But when you learn to stay calm, you gain power that nothing else can give you. Calmness is strength under control. It's like a river flowing gently, but capable of carving through mountains over time. Calm people may appear soft, but their resilience is unmatched. When you remain calm, you allow life to guide you instead of fighting it. You start trusting timing instead of forcing outcomes. You understand that worrying doesn't fix tomorrow, it only steals peace from today. And slowly, you begin to live with faith. Faith that even if you can't control the storm, you can control your sail. That faith transforms your energy, your decisions, and your destiny. In the workplace, calmness sets you apart. When everyone else is stressed, the calm person becomes the leader others look up to. Calm people find solutions where others see problems because they are not reacting to the pressure, they're responding with purpose. Calmness turns chaos into opportunity. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about believing that no challenge is greater than your ability to handle it. Even spiritually, calmness is the foundation of growth. When your mind is noisy, you can't hear your intuition. But when your mind is still, wisdom begins to whisper. You start hearing the quiet guidance of your soul, reminding you that everything happens for a reason, that every storm has a lesson. Sometimes the storm comes to remove what you didn't have the courage to let go of. And when you stay calm, you start to see the beauty behind the chaos. People often think being calm means being passive or weak. But that's far from the truth. It takes enormous strength to remain peaceful when you have every reason to be angry. It takes maturity to smile when others expect you to break. Calmness is not about inaction, it's about conscious action. It's about choosing peace over reaction, patience over aggression, and understanding over impulse. The truth is, storms will never stop coming. Life is unpredictable, and not everything will go as planned, but your reaction determines your experience. If you panic, the storm controls you. If you stay calm, you control your response. Calmness doesn't change the weather, but it changes your journey through it. So when life throws chaos your way, remember to breathe. Remember that calmness doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to protect your peace. It means you understand that your mind is your greatest weapon, and losing control means losing the battle. When you stay calm, life starts to flow in your favor because calm energy attracts clarity, and clarity attracts miracles. Life truly rewards those who stay calm in storms. Not because the storm becomes easier, but because calmness helps you rise above it. And when the storm finally passes, and it always does, you'll look back and realize that staying calm didn't just help you survive, it helped you grow, transform, and shine brighter than ever before.